we are again with plastic little motors and things in the dash costing you hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. Let's get started. This is a 2009 Acura MDX, and you guys have seen videos in the past where we've done Dodge Rams or various other vehicles, some of them requiring the entire dash to come out, or these little black boxes that have plastic gears and motors in them that actually operate hot, cold, vent, floor, defrost, all those different options. When you turn the knob or push buttons and change those options, these little motors are the one that actually do the work to make flaps move inside the dash. Customer did make us aware that it does have mud and everything over it. This is Kansas. They live on a dirt road, and this is what it is. It's really not that big of a deal. It's not that bad, but it does have mud on it. But they made the complaint that when I turn the heat on, it will blow heat. But I want to dial it back a little bit. Nothing happens until I get clear the other direction, and finally it goes full cold. And the same thing for the passenger side. Also, it's on vent, and I'd like to do defrost or floor, and it just refuses to do any of that. I kind of knew it was probably going to be some issues in the dash with those little motors, and it proved to be true. Grimes actually tackled this one. He connected a scan tool to it. Right away in the HVAC system, there were errors with faults with the driver's mix door, the passenger mix door, and also the mode door. Well, actually the motors, not the doors themselves, but it's kind of what it said. You really didn't even need to go any further. It was electrical problems with those, and it pretty much had shut those off because it was either pulling too many amps or it was telling it to move and nothing was happening. And the computer knew this and said, okay, we need to stop with those. Even if you tell me to move, I'm not going to move it because something's wrong. And that's basically what happens with these systems when it refuses to do anything for you. This is a common problem that's happening with every single car maker on planet Earth. Not so much with Toyota and Lexus. They do have the problem, but it's not so prevalent. But no one is exempt from this. It's not easy to say, well, these models have the problem and these ones don't. This is a problem with all of them because the parts are so cheap. Let's go take a look at the broken parts that came out of this one.
Wow, it looks like you're playing the shell game there, Wizard.
It kind of looks like it, the old switcheroo, and it's kind of what it feels like when these things break, and it's going to be anywhere from sometimes $700, $800, $900, sometimes it can be $2,000 or $3,000 if the whole dash and the whole case and all kinds of things have to come out. Just to get to these little guys here, you can feel like you're getting the old switcheroo. And it's not fun. I know it's not. Let's take a look at these and which ones were broken, and then we'll take one apart and look inside. So here all three of them are, and a couple of these would actually do the temperature for the driver or the passenger if they change with the blue or red arrow. These motors would actually move the flap inside the dash to let cold air or hot air in. You can see they have little arms on them. This mounts to the case. Here's where the wiring goes in, and this little arm hooks to linkages. It moves the door one way or the other. This is the little guy that actually does the work when you tell to go cold or hot or vent or floor or whatnot. These are what they look like. Here's another one as well. You can see each one has different arms, different shapes. They typically don't just have one that works on all of them. Each one is different. And this one just has one little arm on it. This one actually had a white colored arm that has a little joggle. There's a pin that fits in here that as it moves a door, another door as well. These things aren't cheap. Sometimes they can be 50 or 60 bucks. These ones are a little over 100 a piece. I don't know why they were more, maybe because it's an Acura. But these two, we'll move them aside. We're actually going to take this apart and show you what fails in these things that makes them quit working. So I actually had Grimes already take this apart for me. We'll go ahead and take the top off. The first thing I'm going to show you, you see these little fingers here? They ride on this right here. It looks like a record from a record player. And as this moves, it tells the computer what position it's in. These are called wipers and traces on here. This can go bad and get all gunked up or destroyed where it doesn't know where it's at anymore, and then the computer says, screw it, I'm done. I don't know where we're at, so I'm not doing anything else. So that's the first mode of failure. There's actually 3 on these. Number 2 is these little teeth and this little worm gear right here can actually break the little teeth off, and you'll actually hear this when this happens when you go to change the temperature in your dash and you hear click, 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 click. What it is these little teeth are skipping and are not moving. They're just broken. It's actually one of the most common failures of these. Some cars, you actually turn on the car and it runs through its little test. They test all the actuators and it clicks every single time, and it's annoying. Some of us can, in the comment section, can let us know, yeah, my car is doing that. Well, now you know why, and very likely what it's going to take to fix it. Now let's take a look at the third mode of failure on these. So there's only 3 things to really look at here: the wipers, the gears, the little transmission, and also the third thing, which is the motor. The motor may actually still work, but it's starting to fail and it's pulling too much power. The computer can actually measure that through these pins here that go to the motor. It sends power to it, and it should say a certain amount of milliamps or amps or whatnot, and it's not. And that's actually what was wrong in this case on all 3 of these motors. The actual motor was the failure point, not the teeth, not the gears, not the little wipers. But it would tell the motor to move, and it would start moving, and it was seeing a lot of amps being pulled, and the computer's like, stop, we're done, I'm not going to cause a fire here or blow a fuse or hurt a module. There's too many amps being pulled here, we're done, we're not moving that anymore. And then it throws a code, and you go into stuck mode where nothing moves. So those are how those little guys can fail. Luckily in this case we did not have to pull the whole dash out to do this job. It was actually fairly easy to access.
It's a nice day, dear. They've got the Harley out.
People have got their Harleys out. Anyways, Mrs. Wizard will go down there and show you. There's a little green connector. You'll actually see the motor. It's fairly easy to get to. So you can see the green connector there actually plugs in. That's where the actuator is located. You just remove a few things and unscrew it from the case. It's not too big of a deal. Luckily this one was right by the gas pedal on this side, similar position on the passenger side, and the door motor was actually not too hard to get to either. It took Grimes about a little over 3 hours to get them all changed out. Then you don't just put them in and you're done. You got to connect the scan tool again, clear the codes, and then run through a calibration procedure so the computer can learn the new motors, where it's all the way open, all the way closed. You have to run through that. It takes a little time as well. So a little over 3 hours to get those replaced. But sometimes it can be like this, in this picture, a major teardown to really get to some of these. Let's actually go over to the Land Rover. We're about to go back together with it, but you can see some of these things on the case. Let's go take a look. So this is the HVAC case out of that white Land Rover Discovery 2. With Grimes has actually finished the wiring. We're now reassembling the steering column, and we're about to put all this stuff back into the vehicle. But you can see the motors here where they mount to the case. There's 2 of them here, and they have little linkages with arms like I mentioned, and they move all the doors inside the case, just like I was talking about here a minute ago. Can you imagine, which I don't think is the case with this one, these were probably pretty easy to get to, but can you imagine having to take all of this out to just get to those little things? There are some vehicles out there that it is the case, and you want to pull your hair out. You're like, for a $50 thing you have to take all this stuff out? Yes. And I have a story I'll share with you in a minute that was really crazy as well about that. Unfortunately, most vehicles today are going to have this problem at some point. You can expect it, especially you get up to 120, 150,000 miles, 1 or 2 may go out. Hopefully yours is one of the vehicles like this one where it wasn't too bad. But hope and pray that it's not one of the ones that's the whole dash is to come out. Again, thousands of dollars to get to those. We did get these installed. We did the calibration, and it did everything it's supposed to do. It goes vent, floor, defrost. It's happy, hot, cold. Everything was beautiful. But Grimes is very meticulous, and he noticed, he was like, this works, but the air that's coming through is not very strong. It's very weak air. And he got to thinking, he was like, I wonder if the cabin filter is plugged. Let me show you what we found. Now keep in mind, this is an older person, they live out in the country. It's to be expected these things will be dirty like this, and it's time for this to be changed out. But let me show you what was in here. Look at that, guys. I'm going to actually turn this upside down and knock it on the table. Let's see how much stuff we get out.
Oh, you're killing me.
Oh my goodness, and there's still more, guys. Look. It just ain't coming out. This is something that's easily overlooked. Nothing against the person that owns this car. You just don't think about it. You don't realize, and it's not something that you can really hear or notice. It doesn't make a smell. It doesn't make a noise. But here's what can happen if you don't change that out regularly. It becomes extremely hard for the blower motor to pull air through all of that debris and all that garbage. And it can pull so many amps that can actually melt wiring, can blow a fuse, it can actually damage the blower motor and decrease its lifespan by half, which means you have to buy a new blower motor because it was so clogged to get air through. Back in the old days, we didn't even have cabin filters, and some trucks today don't even have them. So an older person who grew up in the 60s, 70s, 80s, that doesn't even click in their mind. The idea of a cabin filter, what even is that? Where even is that? I don't even know what that is. Well, now we know it's something on a newer car you should be checking into. This time around it didn't cause any damage, but once we got the new cabin filter in, which by the way, it did increase the price of the bill a little bit, like 30, 40 bucks. It ain't much. But those are one of those situations, are you really going to put all that back into your car? No. So we went ahead and replaced it, and immediately the air was like 3 times stronger. So now they have hot heat, cold AC, it goes to the vents or floor defrost like it's supposed to, and they're going to experience much more air volume, which is going to be much more enjoyable. So all those situations are now solved. So that's pretty much all the customer wanted. I re-verified with the customer while they were there. It's like, is that all you want taken care of? Do you want oil change? Do you want this or that? He said, no, I don't want anything else looked at. I don't want anything else messed with. Just do this particular items. So we did. And we'll put it out the door just like it's requested. This bill came to be around $700 or $800. You know, each of those are a little over $100 a piece at 3 hours of labor at $150 an hour. It doesn't take long to get $600, $700, $800 after sales tax just to put 3 little motors in. As much as that sounds as expensive, can you imagine if it was $2,000 or $3,000 to do the whole dash out job? It really sucks sometimes. But let me tell you my crazy story. This was back when we were in Halstead. This is actually when we first did the first season of Car Issues with Tyler Hoover. This small little building in Halstead. I had a customer come with a GMC Envoy, and it had one of the motors, like you just saw, was broken inside the dash. It was clicking. He couldn't change the vent and defrost it. That particular one, I think it was that one. I'm not sure which one, but it required the dash to come out, at least partially. And with the price of the parts and the labor, it was going to be $1,200. This customer came unglued. I mean, just pissed off. You mean to tell me that little plastic gear, 50-cent gear, is going to cost me $1,200? I ain't doing it. And we went on. Actually, he went all political on it, and we're not going to do that here. We don't do that on this channel. But he just was so angry, and I just stopped him. I said, hey, did I design this car? Well, no. I said, why are you taking your frustrations out on me? I didn't make this car. This is pretty much the thing to expect with any newer car. It's not just your car. He finally calmed down and whatnot, and he said, well, I'm just not going to do it. I'm just not going to have heat or whatever it was that was broken at that time. I'm just going to go without it because I'm not spending that. I can kind of understand where he was coming from. It was so expensive. He didn't have that kind of money just for a little $50 motor. But at the same time, did you really get one over on anyone by going without heat during the winter because you're not going to spend the money? Did you really win? No, you really didn't win anything. It's kind of one of those situations, regardless of which decision you make, it's going to be uncomfortable and not fun. When these break on cars, it's not fun for us. It's not fun for you. It's one of those jobs that when I hear on the phone, this is broke, and I'm like, oh no. This isn't going to be, they're not going to like the price they're going to give them because it's so expensive to get to these things, and it's not going to be fun to actually do the job, just like on the Land Rover, all that stuff coming apart. So that is the nature of these. I wanted to do this video for you guys to show you when you hear the clicking in the dash, or it's refusing to change the modes or the temperatures, exactly what you just might be getting yourself into. So that's what we did this video for you guys today. So if you're curious what kind of tools Grimes used to work on this Acura, check our Amazon affiliates link in the description below. Most of the tools we use in the shop are listed there for sale, and if you purchase anything, we get a small cut and really appreciate it. Also check out Mrs. Wizard's parts work. The auction is now. Those things are going up for sale. She's got several really nice pieces that are going to be going up for auction. You definitely want to check those out. Don't want to miss out. They're very good. I went over there the other day. She was making them, and I was like, wow, this is awesome. So definitely check those out. Also click the subscribe button here as well, because the entire month is full of cars coming in, which means tons of videos for you guys. Thanks for watching.